Long days, longer nights. You feel?
I'm just ready for more, and I don't know what that is. It's, one day at a time.
Put them in the dirt, say it again, man, and that's a reverse. Never rehearse. Jumping in.
I'm so happy that Winnipeg is starting to be recognized for its support and its huge basketball community.
Don't got a nerve, man, I never curse. Just casting these spells when I'm spelling these words. That's real, that's true.
I just love basketball more.
Trying to figure out what I should do still. I'm really never waiting here too still.
I'd love to play professional basketball. That's kind of always been my goal since I started.
Guys around me, they love to talk. I take it all.
There's 10,000 people at the game. That's almost like a refresh for me. Wow, I'm really doing this.
When I came in, they came in.
See, it's not so easy holding a
I
microphone.
know,
is
man.
it?
Harder than it looks. It's harder than it looks.
Yeah, welcome to my world, man. This is. I'm glad that you're walking into my world and seeing how hard my day to day is. Right? I think it's so hard being a pro basketball player in this day.
Hey, all I have to do is, play basketball, shoot the ball, and put a little ball in a hoop.
Yeah. See now, but watch now you're gonna be overthrowing because the mic's a little heavy, right? So a little extra work. But so you're halfway point of the season. How you feeling?
Good. I mean, we're at 1-3 in a row, and I think it's, especially in a league like this where 4 of the 5 teams make the playoffs. It's about how you finish, not how you start.
Yeah.
And so obviously we had a little rough patch in the beginning of our season there, but we won 3 in a row. I think we're starting to hit our stride, and we're on the right track. And if we can peak at the right time, that's what matters.
So this is your second year as a professional, second year with University of Manitoba as well. A lot has happened since you first walked into the University of Manitoba. I know last year was pretty special. How do you find it now? Are you getting used to being the local up-and-coming star on the local team, or is it something that doesn't really get old?
Yeah, that's something that I'll never really get used to. I feel like I'm more of an introvert, a laid-back kind of guy. And so, I don't know, kind of having all these people know who I am, it's definitely a cool experience, but it's not something I think I'm ever going to get used to.
Do you ever get, I don't want to say annoyed, but does it get to be a lot, when people are coming up to you saying hi, asking about basketball all the time, or?
Maybe after a loss or something when your mind's on something else, but for the most part, and even if I do, every once in a while I get frustrated with talking to my parents or my friends, it's hey, not many people get the chance to play in your home city, right? So you soak it in while you can. All these kids probably look up to you. You're from Winnipeg. You went to high school here. They probably aspire to be like you one day. And, if I was playing in a different city or a different country, it wouldn't be like that. So kind of just, soak it in and realize, the experience and the advantage that I have right now being at home and just enjoy it while it is here.
So when you go back, all the way back, growing up in Winnipeg, whether you're playing on, the hardwood or outside, how do you think the upbringing in Winnipeg shaped you as a basketball player or even presented opportunities?
Yeah, I think I've said so many times that the community, the basketball community in Winnipeg and even Manitoba is just growing. Even back to my provincial team days, Manitoba, I feel has always been a really good provincial team. They're always one of the top half teams, and we got an unlucky draw here or there. But yeah, and just having people around me to push me, Matt Dick and Atlas basketball. I've had Matt training me since I was in the 7th grade. 8th grade, just having people like that in my corner to want what's best for me and just being able to do that in Winnipeg.
Do you think it's odd to get that kind of consistency? I mean, Winnipeg's a big enough city, you can kind of see it at the college level for sure, right? Play at the U of M, being able to go from high school, keep those same trainers. But as you look at the professional outlook now and having the ability to play professionally at home in the summers, I mean, that's pretty unique. So having that consistency, how much do you think that's an advantage for you when you're able to work with the same trainers, stay on those programs with people that know you really well?
Mm-hmm. It's huge, right? I can't speak for what it's in other bigger cities, but, I've kind of had the same people in my circle for 8 years or however long it's been now, 7 years. And it's huge because you can just build on stuff and keep building, right? Instead of having to jump from person to person who have different philosophies and you're kind of training new stuff or stuff you feel you don't use as much. When I work out with someone like Matt, he knows my jump shot better than I know my jump shot. He's seen me shoot thousands of shots. So sometimes if we're working out, it'll be I'll just shoot, we'll just have a conversation, and at the end of the workout, I'll be hey, at this point in your shot, I think it's a little bit slow right there. Boom, and it's fixed. right? Where like if I had just started training with somebody new, they just wouldn't know any of that, or I just don't have that those reps gone that I've just had so much consistency with someone like Matt, and even like with the Seabears now, like with someone like Jawan, like our skills guy, our assistant coach, just getting workouts in with him, right? Like it's been 2 years now that I've been able to do it, so he knows my game well. He knows what kind of shots I'm gonna get, what things I need to work on, what things in games he sees, or I think you could be a little bit better here. Let's work on that here. And so having people able to see that and like over time, like build that relationship, build that trust is huge.
You were a volleyball player as well.
Yeah.
Really good one, I've heard. So when did you make the decision? Because at some point, I mean, you're playing high level at both. You got to decide one or the other.
Right.
And you picked basketball. What was behind that decision?
At the end of the day, for me, it was just the love of the game. Like as much as I love volleyball, and I would go back and forth, when I'm in season for volleyball and I'm going to the nationals and all this stuff, like I love volleyball and I'm like, man, I can't imagine not playing this. But at the end of the day, I think I just love basketball more. And I love the idea that you could be in a gym by yourself, like ball and hoop, and just play for as long as you want and get as good as you want. With volleyball, I found like, hey, you need to have a net. You need to have a ball, and even you need to have like somebody to set you the ball if you want to hit, and like maybe you could go serve by yourself, then you got to serve and then run and get the ball back. You can't even see if it's in, or I just found it was easier to get better training by yourself playing basketball, and that's something that was appealing to me too, as well as it's just like I just enjoyed it more deep down in my heart.
What do you miss most about volleyball?
Just the games. Like it's a different kind of energy almost, in the sense that it's like basketball's a very team game as well, but volleyball relies so much on like momentum and team. Like it's such a chemistry built game, and that kind of aspect of it, I would say I miss.
So you come out of high school and you come to the University of Manitoba. What fueled that? Like, were there other schools looking at you at the time, and what, I guess, was behind the decision to stay home and and play for the University of Manitoba?
So my goal, my whole time, like I left Winnipeg for my grade 12 year, and then I did a postgrad year, so for 2 years, and I wanted to go play Division I. That was kind of always my goal, and I had I think 2, I'll call them almost half offers, kind of coming out. It was schools that like offered me, and then somebody else committed, and they're like, we'll honor it, but we don't really need you. And one team was one school was like, hey, we just offered 4 big guys that can shoot because we need one. Like, first guy who wants to commit can have the spot. And I'm just like, hey, I'd rather go to a school where I feel like I'm wanted as Simon Hildebrandt, and for my game, not just a check in a box kind of thing. And so ultimately, like the Division I path kind of didn't work out. And I had a couple other like U Sports schools like recruiting me, but I kind of always knew like Kirby had recruited me at University of Manitoba when I was in grade 11. I had a constant dialogue with him the whole time when I was at prep school for 2 years. And I kind of knew if I was going to come back and play U Sports, I just wanted to be at home. And I made my choice to come play at University of Manitoba, and it was a great choice. You don't regret a thing. I've had a fantastic 2 years. It's allowed me to like thrive in that system at that school, playing the CEBL for 2 years now, and kind of help my career take off a little bit.
You talked a little bit about it, kind of having that internal circle, that support system, if you will. When you look at your system here, particularly in Winnipeg, I mean, most of your career's been here anyway, who makes up that circle of yours? Like, who do you keep close, and how are they helping you from the day to day? Because it's a grind, right? I mean, you're playing around.
I mean, obviously, like my parents, I try to keep them in the loop and like everything that's going on in my basketball career, and they've kind of supported me in like all the steps I've taken and give me advice on different things. And anytime I'm meeting with a school or a team or whatever, they're always in those meetings with me, and I know they have my best interest at their heart too. I spoke before Matt Dick and Atlas Basketball, all that. He's kind of been with me, and he's the guy who really encouraged me to take basketball seriously when I was a lot younger, and kind of been with me every step of the way. And he's somebody I trust with, everything around me surrounding basketball. And even someone in the last like couple years, like my coaching staff at U of M, like Kirby, like Coach Shep, like Rashawn Brown and Donnie Hayes, like my assistant coaches there who, work me out every day and who I see every day, and kind of around me and around my game and who I rely on for advice at times like that. Like Sherwin Vasallo, he's a guy who I lift my weights with in the off season. Like I started about 2 years ago, I think, maybe 2 and a bit. He's somebody who I see often, and helps me get my body where it needs to be too. So just people like that, like for the most part, I'd say.
So aside from basketball, because obviously the skill level is going to elevate when you go from college to pro, but what's the biggest difference away from the court when it comes to being a professional basketball player as opposed to a college basketball player as a professional?
I would say, and I've heard this from other people too, like once you leave school, and like you said, basketball is more of a job, right? You just have so many more chances and opportunity to get better, right? Like I've just heard from guys like, when you're in college, like you said, you're doing school, you're doing this, and you're playing basketball on top of that. But when you're a professional, and like my case in the summers, right? This is the one thing I have going on. So in my 24 hours of a day, right? Like I wake up, whatever, I'll practice, I'll lift weights, I'll get shots up. I still have the rest of my day if I want to wait and then get shots up later. Like you just have so much time. Hey, if I'm hurting, I'm just gonna go get treatment. Or hey, I need to go do yoga, or I'm gonna do a mobility workout on top of this. You just have all that time in a day. You can really work 8 hours a day if you want to just better your body, work on your game, better yourself. Or in college, maybe you have that 2-hour practice window and you have 45-minute window here and then a 45-minute window there, and then rest of your time you're worrying about school or worrying about this, or there's way more time to get better, I would say, as a pro.
How hard is it then to stay motivated in terms of, I'm sure at first, beginning of the season when, the excitement's there, you're pretty gung-ho to get going, but, say you get to the midpoint, 3/4 point of the season, and you haven't been on a pro team yet that hasn't been in the playoff picture. That's another thing too. But, when you have those days where I'm sure it's like, I'm a little sore, I'm a little tired, I can sleep in a little bit, or I can head home after practice and,
right,
do something maybe that's not as constructive to my game. How do you keep that motivation up and you feel there's an added sense of responsibility that you have to take on yourself?
Yeah, like it's really hard, and that's what makes some of the great guys great, right? Like, yeah, I have those days where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sleep in a little bit here, or, after practice I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go home and do this. But like, if you can just try to remember, like in the game, like how it feels to play in a game, like for my sake as a Winnipeg kid, that chance to play at Canada Life Center in Winnipeg, and it fuels me to play in front of these fans and be the best that I can be in these kind of situations playing at home, and I just want to be better for that.
I want to circle back because you talked about how you're a bit of an introvert and people coming up to you and wanting to talk, pictures, autographs, stuff like that, but you also look at the opportunities that basketball has presented you here in terms of the sponsorships and the endorsements and things like that. How much do you enjoy that part of being a basketball player? And did it surprise you at all that there was that many businesses and partners that want to partner up with you for you to endorse their brand?
Yeah, like it's definitely an unbelievable experience and a whole different side of basketball that, like, as a kid growing up you don't even think about or know about. And yeah, like it's definitely cool to see kind of the impact that I'm leaving on the city and the younger kids and even like the local businesses and stuff like that. And yeah, like I enjoy doing stuff like that, like working with these companies and these organizations, especially in Winnipeg, the local ones. Maybe I grew up kind of knowing or seeing.
Yeah. How hard is it to balance that? We talked about the school and everything and then the workouts, but then you throw in the added element of photo shoots and, or putting on basketball camps, right, and public appearances. I imagine that's more taxing than people probably imagine.
Yeah, like it's hard, but if you can like kind of schedule things and have a calendar and stay on top of it, it's no different than school. And right, it's probably a little bit less demanding than school, right? If I'm in 4 or 5 courses plus homework, all this stuff, where this is just 1 2-hour event. If I can book it a week in advance, I know, hey, on this day I'm this busy, so I gotta get my stuff done before. Okay. But as a student, I would say I kind of get that. I already have that planning aspect fresh.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just tap back into that a little bit.
So obviously when you play for, your university, there's that natural sense of representing the school. Then you're from Winnipeg and Manitoba, so I'm sure it's special to wear Manitoba. But when you play for a professional team and you get to wear Winnipeg, especially this year because you guys have the third jersey that actually just says Winnipeg on it.
Right.
As a Winnipegger, how much pride do you take in that, being the Winnipegger or one of the Winnipeggers on the local team and being part of a pretty big contingent of Winnipeggers on the team
Right.
too?
Yeah, like I'm extremely proud to be a Winnipegger, and seeing like our fan attendance at the games and seeing where we play and what our organization has done on and off the court, right? Like, I know I talked to guys like Chad and Jared and Emmanuel about this stuff too, and just all these opportunities to give back, right? Like we play in the Canada Life Center. Everybody else plays in WHL arenas or OHL arenas, right? We get 8,000 people out to a game. Other teams get a couple thousand. And just Winnipeg, I'm so happy that Winnipeg is starting to be recognized for its support and its like huge basketball community.
I've said it before. Even beyond basketball, I would say, I've been privileged enough to live in multiple cities in this country, but Winnipeg's different when it comes to sports.
Yep.
Between Sea Bears, Gold Eyes, Blue Bombers, Jets,
Yep.
Manitoba Moose, the universities, even what the Westmen and the Bisons get for all sports. I mean, it's unbelievable in that sense. You look back growing up now. Were you a basketball fan growing up?
Yeah, I think I was extremely lucky at my parents pushed me to play as many sports as possible. Like, I'm just a sports fan. Like, I love every sport possible out there, and yes, I was a fan of basketball, but basketball among many other things.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite team? Do
See,
you have a favorite team to this day?
like, I'm not the biggest fan of the NBA. I find 82 game season, it's hard to like watch 82 games.
Well, especially when you're playing too.
So when you're playing, and you just know, like, as a player, like, it's hard to kind of give 110% effort when you're playing every second. Like, I play a 20 game season, and I'm already tired.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine what it's like playing 10 months of the year, 82 games, playing every second day, and traveling like this. So I love watching the NBA playoffs, and I'll kind of pick a team based on like who's on what team. But my dad and I have always been big college basketball fans, and huge March Madness fans.
Do you have a school that you?
Yeah, my dad's a big North Carolina fan, and I would say
really?
I kind of followed him
Yeah.
there and
Not a
cheered for
Dookie
them. No.
And did you have the Celtics winning the championship? Obviously. The answer is yes.
I know you're a big Celtics fan. I may have been cheering for the Mavericks, but I would say I was very 50s. Oh, don't look at me like that. I was very. So I went to school in Boston, right outside of Boston.
Okay.
So part of me there was cheering for the Celtics, but it was kind of fun, watching Luka. I like Luka as a player. I think it's kind of cool to see Kyrie do what he's doing now after getting all that hate. And I love watching Jason Tatum. I'm a big fan of like Peyton Pritchard, guys like that.
Oh, now you're talking my language,
So
man.
and like I said, I went to school.
Baby.
I went to school just outside of Boston for a year, so it was I was cheering for Boston to come out of the East.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was cheering for the Timberwolves probably to come out of the West, just because they're close to Winnipeg.
I will say I was rooting for the Timberwolves in the West too. That team is so exciting.
Anthony Edwards is a fun player to watch.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. That's the beauty of basketball, and I think that's one thing. Even with the Sea Bears, is you can watch individual players. Like
Right.
the way basketball is, like you're watching for certain players, and you might not like a team per se, but you like players on that team, which makes it a lot more fun. A little sad that you weren't all on the Celtics, but you know what? You saved yourself with the Peyton Pritchard.
And honestly, as a fan of just basketball, it wasn't even a good finals. I'll say that to you.
Oh, it was a
every game
perfect
was a blowout.
I thought every game was perfect except for that one game that the Celtics lost.
Do you remember when the Warriors came back from being down 3-1?
Yeah.
Or the Cavs came back. Sorry, I remember watching all those games, and it's just even like the Raptors run, like they were down 2-0 to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And they had so many, like, Kawhi shot the series before. Like, these close games where you see the best players in the world trying their hardest. Where I find in the regular season, you get all these all-stars playing 50% defense, load management, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If you sometimes, the team's good enough, they're going to make the playoffs, so they'll just coast in the playoffs. But once the playoffs start, that's when you really see these guys giving 110% effort, playing defense, and coaches start skimming up stuff because you're playing a 7-game series. You're not just playing a back-to-back of 2 different teams. You have time to scout these teams, and that's kind of where I really see the best kind of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, all-stars taking breaks. I mean, it's hard to be competitive with the greatest team maybe ever, right? The Boston Celtics. Especially. Anyway, moving on to Celtics. You talked a little bit about Luka. You're an interesting player in the sense that, you've got the build of a forward, like a 4, but you've got good ball handling and good shooting ability as well. Who did you model, or who do you model your game after? Is there anybody past, present that you kind of look to as inspiration to how you play, or that you try to mimic to improve your game?
A young Gordon Hayward. When he was at Butler. I remember watching a little bit of him at Butler. When he played for the Jazz. And kind of moved on from there. And that's a guy, and he's still, I would say, probably more of a wing guard than I am. I'm definitely a little bit more of a forward. But he's somebody who I loved watching.
Yeah. He is interesting, too, because he's another dude who came off as a little bit introvert. I think he's, super into video games, too. I think he takes, gaming, as intensely as he takes basketball. But he's an interesting guy. When you look at the so going back to the forward guard, when you look at yourself, you say I'm more of a 4 than a guard. What comes easier to you? Do you like the physicality of being a forward and taking it to the hole, or do you get more satisfaction out of stepping back and draining a big 3?
So 2 things. First, I would say what determines your position is more on the defensive end. You're focusing a lot on offense. I would say, offensively, I can play the 3, I can play the 4. Whatever, wing forward. But defensively is, for me, what limits me to being more of a forward, where I shoot the ball well enough to play a 3. And where my game is now, I definitely shoot more 3s and go down low. And I'm working on trying to balance that out and be more of a post player versus shooting 3s and be better at both. But what limits me to being more of a forward is I struggle guarding guards on the perimeter. And that's where I think I have the most meat left on the bone to better my game. And so that's one thing I've been trying to work on the last half year, is if I can be better at guarding perimeter players, then that can allow me to be, say, I'm more of a 3.
Do you feel the work that you put in professionally, I wouldn't say, I'll ask the question outright, the work that you put in the summer playing pro, now that you've done a season going back to university, what was the biggest difference that you noticed when you go back to playing your peers at the university level?
I would say I maybe went into it thinking, I've been going against pro guys all summer. This is going to be a breeze going back to U Sports. And you kind of forget that, hey, these guys worked hard in the off season too. They probably got more reps than I did. I was playing all summer. It's not a breeze. It was hard. It was almost a reality check when I first got back. Not that I forgot, people I was playing against were good, but it was hey, yeah, I'm a good player, but I'm also playing very good player as well. Now I'm probably on more scouting reports and stuff like that. So it kind of made me focus on more smaller details. Or it was, for me, if I in the first semester, it was harder for me to get the ball, so I tried to focus more on my rebounding. And then, I got the ball a little more in my second semester, and I stopped rebounding as much as I should have. And there's little things like that.
Do you feel mentally, is that difficult? When you're in the season, you go in thinking, okay, this is probably going to be easier based on what I saw at the professional level. And then when you see that, and it's oh man, this is still difficult playing at this level. How do you handle the mentality of that? Because I'm sure you're going in, people expect you, to pick up where you left off. You didn't have a break in the summer, right? And you say, there's probably more tape on you as well, right? Now they have your university tape and your pro tape to scout. So how is that mentally for you when you're trying to go through the ups and downs of the basketball season?
It's tough, right? It's a grind. It's a long season going right from university, small break, it's a pro, small break, back to university, small break, back playing the CEBL. And it's tough. You go through ups and downs, but I don't know. You just gotta try to find it when you can. And I mean, when the new season starts, you kind of get that refresh almost, right? When we had our home opener, right, and we're at home, you got whatever it was, 10,000 people at the game, 9,000 people at the game, playing at Canada Life Center. That's almost a refresh for me. And I get to kind of soak it all in again and be wow, I'm really doing this. And it kind of energizes you.
Darren Watts had a good year with the University of Manitoba. Now he's joined you at with the Sea Bears. What's that experience been like, having a teammate with you? Because I know Mason Krause was with you last year, but how does that help when you have someone that knows what you're going through at the university level and you understand what they're going through and you can share that at the professional level?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, like, Darren's one of the hardest working people I've met in my life, right? Like, he's a guy who's like the pure definition of a gym rat. And so being able to, like, I knew Darren through high school, right? We're the same age, we both played in the same conference growing up. So, like, I've known him for a little while, obviously got a lot closer to him the last couple of years because we've been at school together. But I'm just so happy for him. And, right, he's a guy who, looking at his work ethic and looking at the great year he had this past year at U of M, right? Like, I'm happy that other people kind of got to see what I see every day at practice. Like, I knew he was good enough to play in this league. All year I've been seeing that. But it's kind of nice to, hey, he comes in at training camp as a guy who wasn't drafted, and he's playing minutes in the first game, right? And I think, well, I've known Darren, and I know he's clearly good enough to be in that position, but I'm kind of happy that he's getting the recognition that he deserves.
Now flip over, guy who's a rival in university, then becomes a teammate in pro, Sean Moranin. You and him have really kind of taken the reins in terms of the marquee, if you will, when it comes to university basketball in town. What's it like? What's it like playing with Sean, and what do you respect most about his game? I know you guys are two totally different positions and everything else, but when you go head to head so much, what is it that you appreciate most about him, and what's it like sharing the floor with him?
His passing, man. Like, I hate playing against him. I hate playing against him because he just picks you apart, right? Like, having him on your team for a while. I mean, even in practice now, like, I was going against him. I'm like, thought I got away from this guy. But it's nice to kind of be able to see it and cheer for him now. See him just pick defenses apart and make great passes. And it's just leadership, too. I feel like as a point guard, you kind of have to be a great leader. You tell people where to go. The ball's always in your hands. You always trust to make the right decisions. And just even as like a younger guy in like his first, second pro experience, how he's still making those same reads just at a much higher level. I'm definitely happy to be playing with him now for once, and he's not looking forward to going and playing against him again. So.
Now you guys, I mean, he's a couple of years older than you, but do you guys bond over that at all? I mean, just like, I feel like university sports is probably at a level higher than it's ever been, especially with interest. Mainly because of the Sea Bears too, right? Knowing that they can go and watch some of their CEBL favorites in the winter. But how much do you guys bond over that, kind of being that the new generation of professional basketball players coming through Winnipeg with a whole runway of career ahead of you? I mean, there's got to be a little bit of pressure there, no?
A little bit. And like, people think that, like, Bison Westman, it's not going to be able to work, all this. Like, obviously when we play them, it's a huge rivalry. But, like, just playing on the same team, it's not that at all. Like, Sean's a great guy. I love playing with him. All those other guys. And, yeah, like, we bond over that a little bit. Like, we're doing some, like, stuff with, like the Collab Shop, right? Like, I'm doing a lot of stuff with him here. And just being able to bond over that. Like, my relationship with Sean has grown a ton this summer. Just kind of talking to him, going to events with him, playing with him. And, yeah, like, I think he'll have a very successful professional career if that's what he chooses to do. I don't have this on his resume. Yeah.
Donald Stewart's been a practice player too, and you play against him. But you guys are really good buddies. Yeah. You grew up together.
Yeah.
What's it like when you go up against a buddy that, in an intense environment, like a Manitoba-Winnipeg rivalry game?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just something that, like, I'll always kind of remember. Like, we joked about as kids, right? Like, just shooting around outside. And I remember, like, the first time, we got to play each other, just how cool of a moment it was for us to kind of finally get to play each other, like, in front of people on a big stage.
Okay, so you're rocking, I think, my favorite Sea Bears shirt. I've seen a few teams have it at the league. It's kind of like throwback.
Oh, yeah.
Basketball shirt. When it comes to the fashion of the game, now you're in a world of pregame fits, and you have the aisle walk, right? The tunnel walk and everything else. How much would you say you were into fashion, let's say even before you got into university? Did you have any interest in it at all?
No, none. I show up to school, I wear my sweatpants, I wear a hoodie, I go to class, go to practice, boom, I go home. Especially my first year, I didn't have a car. I took the bus. And when it's February, I'm not busting to school to look good. I'm busing to school to stay warm.
Yeah.
Right? Like I gotta walk 10, 15 minutes from my house to get on the bus. I'm not trying to wear this and this. I'm just like, man, if I can, be as warm as I can and get to school. Like that was my one goal. So I really kind of only started taking it seriously like last year or two, like with the tunnel fits being a thing.
How much influence did you get from some of your teammates, and was there someone that maybe took you under their wing a little bit to try and guide you in the right direction?
I would say not really. It's kind of like everybody does their own thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like some people have their fashion as like a representation of themselves. Like for me, I don't know. Sometimes I just kind of try to throw together something that might look good or get an opinion from someone else. Or
So I guess when you're going in, what's the purpose? Like obviously the camera's going to be there, but I imagine part of it is like setting the tone, right? Like you want to feel good, probably want to feel comfortable.
Feel good, you play good, man. Feel good, you play good. Look good, you play good.
Yeah. What are the key elements for you? Do you have that yet, or are you still kind of experimenting with what becomes a staple for Simon Hildebrandt?
Still kind of figuring it out. Like I feel like I don't know. I don't really have like a style. And right now I'm very kind of mixing it up, going from different kind of two different styles almost from game to game. I'm still kind of working out almost what mine is.
Believe it or not, outside of sideline reporting, I am like a bum. Like I wear suits in the game, but man, like my wife tells me I gotta throw out stuff. I still have stuff from university. I probably have some stuff from high school that still is in my rotation. It's a lot, man. I feel the pressure for you guys having to go in there and taking the pictures, because I'm like, I would just want to walk in, maybe back door, just get in there, get in my suit, my warm-up suit, and get out there and start putting up shots.
I mean, we got 10 home games, so I just gotta think. I think in advance, man. I gotta pick out 10 outfits.
Yeah.
That's it. And like honestly, like I probably haven't worn many of them outside of like the tunnel walk.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like my suits. Yeah, I've got probably enough to get me through a season. I don't do them all ahead of time, but I definitely have a bit of a plan when I go through it. When you're on the road, though, like how do you travel? Like is
Team
it
gear.
all sweats all the time?
All the time.
Yeah.
I still got other guys might be different, but yeah, I just wear my team gear on the road.
Who takes it the most serious? Doesn't have to be this year's team, even from last year's team. Like who's the guy that really takes it seriously?
I mean, Teddy was always with the fits. Yes. Always with the fits.
Yeah, Teddy was a little all over the place with it too. Like he mixes it up quite a bit with the glasses and
he's got a style, right?
Yeah. Okay. So when you look at the shoes now, we'll tier this one. Do you have a favorite shoe? Just like comfort that you wear, or that
you basketball?
Basketball shoe, but like not to play in. Just like
to play
for
in.
the look of it, the style of it. Is there a shoe that when you see it, you're like that shoe a lot?
Probably Kobe's.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah.
I feel like
the Nike Kobe's, or like those old block Adidas Kobe's?
Nike Kobe's. Yeah. I mean, like I've worn a couple pairs of Kobe's in my time. Like nothing too crazy, but they feel good. I feel like they look good.
I actually think they're behind you. Like there's two Kobe's right there. Can you see them? They're like bricks.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
were like the original Kobe's that came out. I remember when they first came out. They're so thick. Okay, so for basketball now, practicality, performance, what's your shoe?
Like right now, I'm wearing the LeBron 21s.
Yeah.
I like them. I wear the John Morant's. I really like those ones. Those ones are really comfortable.
Those are both Nike.
They play well.
Right?
Both Nike. Yeah. Most of my shoes are Nike.
So
almost
Nike,
all, I would say, yeah. One of my favorite all-time shoes that I wore was the GT Cut 1s.
Okay.
Those were good. I feel like those ones were almost just like thicker, more supported Kobe's.
Okay.
I found. But mine are ran through. They have holes in the toes, no grip left. Like I got those when I was maybe like grade 11. So those are done with. But it's tough, man, when you're size 16.
I was gonna say.
I wear what fits, man.
Like, is that what it comes down to essentially? Especially in high school, I imagine. Like, like if this was it more like, hey, my friends. Like, if you're out shopping and you see size 16 basketball shoe, like
sometimes. Like, I can't remember the last time I went into a store and tried on a pair of shoes.
Really?
Everything's online.
Do you ever have to send them back? I feel like that'd be a bit of a pain. Like, how? So
sometimes.
Okay, so when you're researching, then, because obviously you can't try them on, So like, what are you looking at? You know, because I'm sure there's kids out there that are, or even adults that are like you, have to order their shoes. What works for Simon Hildebrandt when it comes to researching shoes, making sure that I'm getting the best one?
Best price. I'm a student, man. Hey, if it's cheap.
What's Mrs. Hildebrandt on this? They're not shipping.
If it's, I'm old
They're
enough.
like, yeah, right,
I'm old
we're
enough. I
letting
can
you
buy
live
my own shoes. Sometimes word of mouth. If I have somebody, I know somebody who's like worn a pair of shoes, like with the Jaws, for example. If I know somebody who wore the Jaws, even if they're like, you know, size 12 or 13, if they like them, I'd be like, hey, he likes them. Maybe I'll like them. You know, they're on sale on Nike, whatever.
Yeah.
Order them.
Nice. How many shoes do you go through in a year? Do you just get like one pair a year, or do you have to switch it up halfway through? Or
I mean, stuff. I feel like I go through one pair a year, where like it's like you need a new pair the next year. But if I have like 3 pairs of shoes and I rotate them throughout the year, maybe they'll last me 2 or 3 years. That trio kind of thing.
now, as you know, wrap this up. You know, you look ahead now. I mean, you still have a couple more U Sports years ahead of you, both in U Sports and as a CEBL player. But now that you've been exposed to the professional world, you've got some experience professionally. What's next for Simon Hildebrandt? When you know you get your degree and you're done at the University of Manitoba, what is next for you?
I'd love to play professional basketball. That's kind of always been my goal since I started.
Where would you want to play? Do you ever think of like what level? I've heard guys say that they think you've got what it takes to maybe one day play in the NBA. Do you look at that? Do you take stock into that, or is this kind of a one day at a time?
Yeah, like it's one day at a time, right? Like I just, you know, yeah, like one day at a time. Just right now I'm playing in the CEBL, and kind of that's my focus. And I know it's a great stepping stone for. There's a ton of G League guys. There's guys who have played in the NBA who are playing in the same league as I'm playing right now. They're guys who've had very successful overseas careers, whether that be in Germany or Spain or wherever. And so, you know, this is just a great platform to get where I want to go, which ultimately, growing up, I just wanted to play professional basketball. You could argue I've already checked off that box, but I'm just ready for more. And I don't know where that is. It's, yeah, one day at a time. And I see where it takes me.
As you get older, do you look forward to the benefits that basketball brings to you, like the opportunities, again, outside of actually playing, traveling the world, things like that, right? As your career goes on, even with U Sports and the CEBL, you go from Western Canada, then you're traveling across Canada all summer, and then the opportunities to go overseas. I mean, do you look forward to those opportunities of what you'll be able to experience away from basketball because of basketball?
And like I've always wanted to travel and, you know, go to Europe and have my 5-week vacation and, you know, backpack all cities and countries, whatever. But the reality is, like, as a basketball player, especially now when I'm playing college and my summers are taken up here, I get like a week here and a week here where I even have that opportunity to travel. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. But I've heard, you know, it's not like, oh, I'm playing professional basketball. Now I just get to go travel Europe and play a little bit of basketball on the side. Like, it's your job. Right? Like, even talking to guys like, hey, you're practicing twice a day overseas. You're practicing hard. It's not just like a paid vacation. It's still work. And, yeah, you know, I'm looking forward to getting those opportunities to go play, whether that be in Europe. And I've been so fortunate to, you know, travel across Canada and play. But it's not like I'm going there for a weekend to go do whatever I want and sightsee all the time. And you're playing basketball. It's still a job in a sense. But, yeah, I would say I'm looking forward to it.
I guess how much sightseeing do you do? Because you got, like, you will go there the day before, come back the day after.
Right, you're there 24 hours. So, like, you'll leave. If we have a game on a Friday, you know, we might leave Thursday afternoon, morning, and then play Friday, have a shoot around Friday morning. You want to stay off your feet before the game, and you might leave Saturday morning to come home. It's really like a 36-hour trip. Or you're off to the next city then if it's a road trip. But
that's another crazy thing that would probably be different. But anyway, you still have the goal this year. The 2024 season is still underway, and I know you want to win a CEBL championship and get that U Sports national title. And I thank you so much for making the time, because I know you're a busy guy. But always a pleasure having you, Simon.
Of course, glad I was able to make it. Appreciate it.
Okay, show off.
Long days, longer nights. You feel?
You guys see that? I dunked on Simon Hildebrandt, kind of.
Take it, go.
I think he was going the whole time. That's 6 in a row.
the dirt. Say it again, man, and that's a reverse. Never rehearse, jumping in first. Call up the
Pretty good model, man. You should do some modeling.
Get on the tracks, man, and they better swerve. Don't got a nerve, man, I never curse.